My name's Samuel Jefferson. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. I can't exactly say I'm living the high life in my 30s, but I'm getting by in my own way. Looking at my life, I wouldn't blame anyone for feeling sorry for me. After all, I live in a really rundown apartment. The only thing it has to offer is the good location and low rent. Other than that, it's all drawbacks. It's a 2-story apartment built about 50 years ago and a 5-minute walk from the nearest subway station. They did replace the overly rusted stairs with new ones, but the corridors are still full of rust. And because the apartment is of wooden construction, it lets in drafts. Because of that, it creaks all year round, and well, most noises get through. I can easily tell when someone comes home. People often ask me, why don't you move out? But finding a new place to move to is a hassle, not to mention the cost. There aren't any inconveniences, and above all, the location is great and it's cheap to live here. You'd have a rough time finding a place with the same conditions. And as they say, home is where you hang your hat, right? There are no weird people among the apartment residents, so I'm able to live without much inconvenience. Given the size of the rooms, most are living alone. If or earthquake or fire makes it impossible to live in the apartment, well, I'll consider moving then, but since I'm single anyway, I guess it's fine to stay as is. I was thinking about things like that, but one day a rainstorm on the scale of a hurricane hit the apartment. While the house was usually noisy, fortunately, the wind wasn't too bad. The sound of the rain was intense, but as this is usual, I intended to endure it with earplugs, or so I thought. I heard a voice, close to a scream, from the room next to mine. If I remember right, the corner room next to mine is where a female college student lives. This apartment is popular with students, and especially the corner rooms change tenants about once every 3 years. I think it's been about 2 years since she moved in. Up to now, I've only ever heard her on the phone, and our acquaintance was limited to greetings when taking out the trash. Why would she be screaming on a day like this? The commotion continued, and given the urgency and chaos of the situation, I decided to check on the room next door. I was thinking of saying something like, be a bit more mindful of the noise, if nothing was wrong. The noise was that intense. I rang the doorbell of the room next door. The rain outside was awful, and I was worried if the sound would be heard, but she came out promptly. I ended up letting out a strange voice. Why, you ask? That's the female student who came out was drenched from head to toe, despite being indoors. She was drenched with water and was even a bit see-through. I'm sorry for the trouble, and I am looking like this. The ceiling is leaking here. Was I making too much noise? She looked up at me anxiously. She was a petite woman with a bob haircut and a beauty mark under her left eye. I felt my heart skip a beat. This wasn't because she was completely soaked and the shirt became see-through, nor her pale skin without a trace of redness from the rain, giving off an unusual doll-like aura. It was because I saw her beauty mark, and it reminded me of someone dear to me. When was the last time I saw her? How many years has it been? I was deep in thought when it happened. Up outside, a bright flash lit up the sky, followed after a brief pause by a rumbling noise. There must have been lightning somewhere. Wait, what am I doing? This isn't the time to be reminiscing about the past.
No. I just thought you sounded like having a hard time.
Oh, unfortunately, the place where it's leaking is too high for me to reach. She, the Emily Forrest, her eyes welled up with tears as she glanced back into the room. I'm about 5 feet 7 inches tall, but her may be just a smidge over 4 feet 11 inches. Actually, she might not even be that tall, to be honest. Anyway, she's small. Surely, with that height, she can't do much about the leak.
Would you like me to help out, if you don't mind?
As Sympathy.
It's okay. I'll handle the temporary fix.
Oh, sure. Oh, Imagine Night 2, you're a lifesaver.
I guess it's her first time living alone. She seems to have forgotten that she could call the landlord when things go awry. She led me into her apartment, and I began to attend to the leak. At least I thought I could. Yeah, this isn't something a non-expert can fix. It's not a matter of just placing a bucket to catch the drips. There are just too many places where water's been seeping in, and in some spot, it's trickling down quite heavily. Presumably, water is flowing in a large amount from the spot that's affected the most, and it led to other parts to be wet and leaky. But the ceiling of this apartment isn't too high, but I still need to stand on a chair to reach it. For someone like Emily, I bet a ladder would be needed. No wonder there's so much noise. Anyway, sticking towels onto the damp spots, that's frankly impossible, so I'm going to get some buckets from my place to at least prevent water from reaching the floor. While I'm doing that, she finishes the call to the landlord, so I ask her half in jest, "You don't happen to have diapers or anything, do you?" Probably not, right? The absorbent material in diapers can soak up quite a lot of water. I'm going to go get some, so in the meantime, can you move anything that shouldn't get wet into my room? A single man's room is just dirty. I had nothing to lose, so I opened my front door, ran straight to the drugstore with my umbrella, and came back with a package of adult diapers. Who would have thought I'd be buying something like this at my age? I figured they might come in handy one day, but I didn't anticipate using them in this manner. I rushed back to Emily's room. She was diligently tossing the water that had gathered in buckets into the bathroom. It seems like most of her belongings were moved into my room. "Oh, you're back. Can we really deal with this using diapers?" "Yep, just watch." As I said this, I opened the diapers and began placing them absorbent side down on the floor. Absorption takes a bit of time, but they can hold a lot more water than a towel, making it the best way to quickly clean a water-soaked floor. Well, this knowledge is just something I picked up from an online forum. After that, Emily and I kept running back and forth to the bathroom until the rain became lighter, ensuring the buckets didn't overflow. Fortunately, the rain subsided within a few hours and the leakage seemed to have settled down. "Thank you so much." I really appreciate your help. I was at a loss on my own. No problem, we're neighbors after all. So, when is the landlord gonna come to fix this? Uh-oh, he didn't mention when. She must have been quite flustered, and probably isn't used to making inquiries over the phone. She seemed to have missed asking the most crucial question and was hanging her head in dismay. Do you think I can continue living in this unit? I wouldn't recommend it. It's supposed to rain for the next week. Plus, if the floor doesn't dry, it might get moldy. Moreover, it seems like her mattress was also soaking wet and totally unusable. Seems like the landlord of this apartment is quite a negligent type. I couldn't expect any help from the landlord. Sometimes you encounter such landlords, but well, considering this location and the cheap rent, some drawbacks are inevitable.
She looked paler as she groaned. Staying at a hotel right now would be too expensive.
Living in such an apartment, she must be having financial trouble or trying to minimize expenses. She seemed to be heavily distressed, and then she glanced at me.
I know it's a lot to ask. Yes, may I stay at your place, for a few days? But that she took a deep bow.
What? I'm barely getting by with my scholarship and rent each month. I can't afford to go to a hotel. I know it's an impudent request, but I promise I will pay utility bills later. She said so, and honestly, I was torn. But she looked a lot like someone who was very dear to me. So, I couldn't just leave her in the lurch. All right, I'm mostly out for work anyway. Really, thank you.
Looked as if she was about to cry, and I could tell she was really struggling to make ends meet.
Young folks really have it hard these days. With these thoughts, Emily and I began to live together. I was mostly out due to work, and Emily cleaned my room and cooked meals in between her classes. She said she took on the household chores as a way of compensating the inconveniences she caused for me. Even though I ended up paying for the groceries due to her financial situation as a single guy who hadn't had a home-cooked meal in years, it was actually a blessing to just buy ingredients and get to eat a home-cooked meal. Eventually, I reached out to the landlord and was told that the repairs would start a week later. Considering that it's a job that could be done in a day, our shared living situation seemed like it would end quite soon. I felt kind of a bittersweet feeling. Of course, I let her use the bed, and I've been sleeping on a new simple mattress, which has made it a bit harder for me to rest. But having someone else in the room just feels good, and it made me feel a bit more gentle. It was one of these days with her.
As she was looking at her smartphone, she suddenly said, "Our landlords have it tough too, huh, with the compensations and all."
Well, sure, repairs cost money, but they're getting rent income, so these are necessary expenses, I think.
Plus, to compensate for the appliances ruined by the leak this time, that must be quite a bit, right?
As she said that, I felt something was off. She said that I felt something was off. Of course, it's only natural for the landlord to cover the repair costs, but as far as I remember, the terms of our contract here didn't include compensation for appliances. Emily, the contract here states that even if something breaks due to some issue, the landlord won't cover the cost.
Can't wait.
Ah, it looks like she signed the contract without thoroughly looking at the terms. A common mistake among the young folks.
That's not fair. Basing in the end, it's the landlord who's to blame for not maintaining the place properly.
But that's the agreement, right? Your only choices are to find a lease where the landlord will compensate you or to take out homeowner's insurance.
I can't live here if I don't sign the lease. That's just unreasonable.
Do you understand what it means to sign a lease? It means you agree to its terms, so there's no room to complain. I recommend you take the time to read it thoroughly before signing to avoid scams and such.
Dan.
She hung her head and pouted. She really does act her age at times like these. It's a bit worrying because she's so young. Anyway, this new life with Emily felt quite refreshing for me. With the homemade meals she cooks every day, and the house kept so clean, and our conversations are always enjoyable, so a week just flew by. Emily, who always puts a smile on her face, is so adorable that I find myself thinking she must be popular. Her demeanor reminds me of my beloved little sister, Jessica, and it brings on a wave of nostalgic and somewhat painful feelings.
What's the matter? Samuel?
She was enjoying her meal so much, and I found myself staring at her. This made her tilt her head in curiosity. Oh no, what am I doing?
It's nothing.
I replied with a smile, but they really do look alike. Especially when she's asleep, she's the spitting image of Jessica. One night, I happened to see her profile when I got up to use the bathroom. A small mole on her fair skin, the same hairstyle, the same age.
Why do you look so much like Jessica?
I muttered quietly, and tears spilled down my face.
As I was pathetically sniffling, she asked Samuel, what's wrong?
That the sound of my sniffling and the rattling of the wind woke her up. Damn, what am I doing? I'm sorry for waking you. I'm fine, really.
Marvelous, but you don't look fine at all.
She got up and rushed over to me. As she looked up at me with worry in her eyes, I found myself spilling the words out.
You remind me of my sister. My sister also had a mole in the same spot as you do, and her hairstyle was the same. If she were alive, she would be around your age. My sister died when she was in middle school.
My little sister passed away in a traffic accident just after she started junior high. Apparently, she was hit by a car on her way to school. It's been a long time since then, but we had a fight the day before the accident, and I never got the chance to make up with her. I'm still carrying that guilt.
No, is your sister, was her name Jessica?
And how you're joy.
That the sudden mention of my sister's name had me so startled, I thought my eyes would pop out. Why did she bring up Jessica's name?
See my reaction, she continues, so you were Jessica's brother.
Apparently, perhaps Emily was best friends with Jessica.
I always had and heard the people storing this tree. I always used to set out my mole, but Jessica said we were mole twins.
Emily had been friends with Jessica since elementary school, and apparently she even had met me a few times then. Though come to think of it, Jessica would always bring the same friend home.
I've been wearing my hair like Jessica's since the day of the accident. It feels like without that, his food be forgotten by everyone.
Supposedly, she was scared for the world that continued to spin without Jessica. I can understand that feeling, as if Jessica had never existed from the start. Just like that, the world keeps spinning without questions. She must have been afraid of that.
I thought you might be related since you had the same last name. And, Samuel. I'm sorry, you must not like it, seeing me dressed the same as your late sister.
No, it's nothing like that. Thank you for carrying the memories of Jessica with you.
As I said that, she thanked me again and again, tears welling up in her eyes. She and Jessica were best friends. She must have been at the scene of that accident, too. Kissing her best friend in front of her eyes, blaming herself. That's why she tried to imitate Jessica and fill the void of her loss. I truly felt glad to learn that Jessica had such a caring friend who held her so dear. A few days passed. Emily moved back into her room once the repairs were completed. She tried to give me some treats and money for utilities later on, but I politely declined. We should have just returned to nothing but neighbors.
I made stew today. That looks delicious, thank you.
And for some reason, Emily keeps coming over to cook.
Both of us found out that cooking by ourselves saves on food costs, and it's easier to cook for 2 portions than 1. So occasionally, while she's cooking her own meal, Emily cooks mine too.
Oh, by the way, I think I'd make a good wife.
Yeah, I think you would.
Fun dad. Can ask another one be your wife. Samuel.
Our conversation started to include exchanges like these. Truth is, after we talked about Jessica, she confessed her feelings for me.
But when I used to visit Jessica's house, I fell in love at first sight. You were my first love, she said. Honestly,
But it felt too harsh to outright reject her, and too cruel to push her away completely. So it ended up like this.
when will you look at me the same way? At this rate, it might be impossible.
I made it clear that I didn't see her in a romantic light, or so I thought.
But she took it as a comment on her appearance, responding. I see. Then I'll have a makeover.
2 days later, she shocked me by dyeing her hair and getting a loose wavy perm.
Both of us were surprised. She seemed unsure if it suited her, but when I couldn't help but blurt out, "You look cute," she was overjoyed.
She had always styled herself to resemble Jessica, not just to fill the void, but also because she lacked the courage to change her look. It seemed she had finally been released from her fear of forgetting Jessica by sharing her memories with me. Now that she's looking so different and cute, Emily occasionally comes over to cook. Well, honestly, it's bewildering because she is cute. She's far from resembling Jessica now, and there's a full-hearted meaning behind her gaze. But before I knew it, I started wanting to support and protect the slightly absent-minded and clumsy Emily. So that's how it went, about a year after the leaky roof incident. When she became a junior in college, we officially started dating. Actually planned to get married after graduation, so we're practically engaged. Just for the record, we haven't done anything. Or don't even think about creating an established fact before marriage. Just help her since, Don't even think about creating an established fact before marriage. I'm half expecting Jessica to pop up like a ghost, saying Ian's off my best friend. You know, after losing Jessica, I was terrified of time passing. I feared that my memories of her would fade, and I might forget all the details about her. But now it's different. Actually looking forward to the passage of time, I guess it's a sign that I'm able to look towards the future. Just a little bit longer until she graduates. I'll sort out what I want to do until then and look forward to it. And with these thoughts, I dream of the happy family I'll build with Emily in the not-too-distant future. 50 years ago, I am my wife. Emily left me and our 8-year-old twins. After losing Emily, I was at rock bottom, drowned in grief. I had no motivation to do anything and lacked the confidence to protect my children without Emily around. There was someone who stood by us, me and my children. Without this person, I don't think I could have raised my children. But now, that person has to leave my sight. I still love Emily, and I should celebrate the happiness of this benefactor. Yet, I find myself deeply confused by my own feelings. During these times, it was an unexpected group of people who gave me the push I needed. My name is Liam. I'm a 35-year-old worker at a company that sells nursing care supplies. Living with my twin daughters, who are now 11 years old and in the 5th grade. But are girls named Anna and Leigh, who look a lot like Emily. Lately, they seem to be into romance comics and often say precocious things, but they are good kids who actively help out. Emily passed away in a traffic accident 3 years ago. Emily, who had left for her usual part-time job. But on the day of the accident, I had left for work earlier, and Emily had told me, "See you later," as she always did. But that was the last time I would hear her voice. By the time I rushed to the hospital, Emily had already passed away. I don't remember much right after Emily's death. Although I was in shock after suddenly losing Emily, I only thought about supporting the children. Well, I desperately arranged for the funeral and took care of the children. Days seemed to pass by. I remember clearly that the children cried a lot. At the time, the children were in the 2nd grade. They were 8 years old. They were not of an age where they didn't understand anything. I think they understood that they were saying goodbye to their mother. I hugged the crying children as long as time permitted and tried to devote as much time as possible for the children. I cooked, albeit far from matching Emily's as well. My cooking wasn't very good, but the children ate it without complaint. I think they knew they could no longer eat their mother's cooking. I wanted to be as close to the children as possible, but I also had a job. Although I had some savings and the insurance had paid out, so we weren't short of money, I couldn't lose my job as a single parent. I gave it my all to work, handle household chores, and parenting. I didn't want my children to be financially crippled, but I also didn't want them to feel lonely. Such thoughts kept me going, but I think I reached my limit. One day, 1 month right after Emily passed away, I fell ill. Unfortunately, at that time, I had no one whom I could easily ask for help. I grew up in a single-parent household, and my father was elderly, so I couldn't ask him to take care of the children. Emily's parents, my in-laws, were dealing with my Mill's long-term illness, and my Phil was supporting her, so they couldn't take care of me or my children. Feeling dizzy and ill, I was still determined to push through, because I was the only one my children had. It was at that time that Emily's younger sister, Molly, came to our aid. I heard from Mom that you're not feeling well. Liam, I bought a bunch of things. I'll make dinner for the twins too, she said. Molly, Emily's sister, is 6 years younger than me and works as a tutor. She used to visit us often, talking with Emily and playing with my children. Emily adored her younger sister, and my children also loved her a lot. But after Emily's death, the only time I saw Molly was at the funeral. Actually, Molly had offered to help, saying, "I'll come and help," but I had turned her down. I was afraid of becoming dependent if I accepted help. I thought I had to do everything by myself, because from now on, it would just be me. I felt dizzy from the fever, but I tried to refuse the help. I'm fine. I can handle it. I think the fever will go down soon. Take the kids to me, I said in a weak voice. That you mean? Molly said, "No rest, you need to rest. I'm worried not only about the twins, but also about you." Her angry voice reminded me of Emily. It felt oddly nostalgic. I was taken to bed against my will. While I was asleep, Molly prepared meals for my kids and took care of chores like laundry. Actually, Molly had come in the evening, but when I woke up, it was already past 10 p.m. She had even helped the kids with their bath and prepared for their school the next day. My children were already asleep. Molly, I felt helpless. I have to keep going for Emily's sake. I sat dejectedly on the living room couch. But suddenly, I heard the sound of cooking from the kitchen. Turning towards the kitchen, I saw Molly back to me, perhaps reaching for a plate. She was wearing Emily's apron. Touching Molly in the kitchen, tears started rolling down my cheeks. Perhaps it was because I was reminded once again that Emily would never be in the kitchen again. Once the tears started, they didn't stop. Thinking about it, I didn't cry at the wake or the funeral because the children were present. I couldn't cry. This was the first time I cried since I lost Emily.
I let my tears flow for a while, and when I calmed down a bit, Molly asked me to move from the couch to the dining table.
When I sat down, Molly placed a steaming bowl of chicken soup in front of me.
Here we go.
Prompted by Molly's voice, I clasped my hands together and said, "Thank you." This was the first time I was eating a meal cooked just for me since I lost Emily. It's delicious. Ever since I lost Emily, I had lost the taste for anything I ate, but this chicken soup was delicious. As I ate, Molly casually picked up a photo from the living room. It was a photo from when we all went to Disneyland, a picture of the kids happily playing.
You've been, pushing yourself too hard, haven't you?
Molly, still holding the photo, looked at me with kind eyes and said, "The kids are a handful with work and chores." up you're overdoing it. I couldn't respond to her valid point. Am I not doing well enough?
But the exact opposite. You're trying too hard. Now, the kids told me before bed Dad is always working so hard, and they said you look very tired.
Hearing that, I covered my face with my hands. I had made the children I should be protecting worry.
I'll help you. I live nearby. Let me help protect the kids with you.
But, Molly, you've worked too, right? I don't want to take up your valuable time for our family. We'll be fine.
But, Molly, you have work too, right? I don't want to take up your valuable time for our family. We'll be fine.
When I said that, Molly sat down across from me.
When Emily passed away, did that mean she was no longer part of your family?
Absolutely not. Emily will always be a part of my family, a very important part of mine and the children's family.
Molly nodded with a smile.
I'm glad, that's right. Then my relationship with you all hasn't changed either. Just because Emily's gone doesn't mean we say goodbye. I think the people who are important to Emily are also important to me.
The tears in my eyes. I lowered my head.
Thank you. Really, thank you.
Feeling guilty, I also felt a profound sense of relief. It felt reassuring to know that I could depend on someone else, someone who would protect my children along with me.
No need for you to do everything on your own. I'm here.
Vexations them. Molly has been coming to our house every 2 or 3 days and cooking meals for us. She watched the kids on my overtime days and even did the school runs. The children's smiles started to increase gradually. It gave me some breathing space and allowed me to get my emotions in order. Even after 3 years, Molly has been helping our family without fail. Although she comes over less frequently now, on off days, we often go out together, just me, the kids, and Molly. To the kids, she might feel like a much older sister. I enjoyed the relationship I had with Molly and hoped that this lifestyle would continue. However, I was soon made to realize that was wishful thinking. By my aunt's words, there's a good marriage proposal for Molly. Why don't you meet him? The aunt was my father's sister. She would come to visit our house about once every few months with various gifts. Usually, she brings candies the kids liked, but that day, she brought a marriage proposal for Molly. It seemed that even Molly was hearing it for the first time and looked surprised.
Fair enough. I can't possibly go for an arranged date.
Just when Molly hesitantly said this, my aunt seemed to get a little annoyed.
What are you saying? You're already 29, aren't you? If you keep looking after Liam and the kids, you'll miss your chance to get married. Married? The kids have gotten used to living as a trio, and they probably don't need you to help them out anymore, right?
I panicked. I still wanted Molly to help out at our place. It wasn't even about the housework. I just didn't want to lose the time spent with my kids and Molly. But as I was about to say that, a picture of Emily, my deceased wife, caught my eye. It made me realize something. That I felt happy spending time with another woman in the absence of Emily. Once I realized that, I felt guilty towards Emily. I could also understand what my aunt was saying. Molly was still 29. if a good opportunity comes along, she should date and perhaps start a family. And if she keeps coming to our place, I'd be restricting Molly's possibilities. So, I forced a smile and said, "Molly, don't worry about us. Why don't you go for the arranged date? You might meet someone nice." Ali was still hesitant, but my aunt pushed forward the conversation almost forcefully. "It's settled. I'll get in touch with you about the schedule." Molly was not eager, but after being persuaded strongly by me and my aunt, she seemed to have decided to give the arranged date a try. "All right. I'll give it a shot." Hearing Molly's reply, my heart ached a bit, but I pretended not to notice. My aunt has always been proactive. Molly's arranged date was set for 2 weeks later. On the day of the arranged date, I was feeling anxious in the living room of my house. Despite having sent her off myself, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of man Molly was meeting and what they were talking about. I couldn't sit still thinking about it. The ones looking at me with cold eyes were my kids who were reading romance comics sprawled out on the sofa.
I'd stop racing her. Get a hold of yourself.
I was taken aback by my daughter Anna's reprimand. Not because I was scared, but because she was just like Emily.
Always used to say, didn't she? Falling in love is a wonderful thing. You shouldn't lie to your own feelings.
Dad, aren't you lying to your own feelings?
I was flustered by the words of my daughters. "Anna and Lee, what are you talking about? I am not doing anything like that." I noticed my voice was sounding pitiful and small. The girls put down the romance comic books they were holding and faced me.
We're in 5th grade, you know? We're not little kids anymore. You understand. You like Molly, don't you?
"What you like? What are you girls?" I was incredibly embarrassed talking about love with my daughters, but they seemed exasperated by my reaction.
Stop treating us like kids. Some of us even have boyfriends. You know, we can talk about this stuff.
I was speechless, surprised by how precocious these modern elementary school kids were.
You worry about us? Our mom is just our mom. But we love Maui. Oh, she's been there for us when we were sad or happy. We can't be our mom. But, we think we can make a great family with her. Listening to their conversation.
I thought they were just a sloppy kid who liked romance comics. But to think they had grown up enough to say such mature things.
Well, are you girls? You've really grown up, haven't you?
I stroked their heads. But they recoiled from my touch as if trying to escape.
We told you, stop treating us like kids.
I looked at my own hand, hanging awkwardly in midair, and gave a wry smile.
And but Dad should go. Her crush might get taken by someone else.
That's right. I can stay home alone for a while. Okay, you don't need to rush home. Take your time on your date.
I glanced briefly at Emily's portrait, remembering her smiling face. She was always the type of person who would scold me when I was being pitiful and push me forward. The kids seemed to have taken after their strong-willed mother. They say kids grow up fast, and I guess that was exactly the case. And so, pushed forward by my kids, I rushed off to the matchmaking event. remembering the entire conversation with my kids, one woman kept coming to mind. It was Molly. She'd made me porridge, rushed to the kids' school events, made lunches for sports day, even sewed costumes for the school performances. Auntie Molly was always there for us. I wanted her to continue to be there. There was no one else at the matchmaking venue but Molly. That when she saw me, her eyes went wide. "Molly, where's your date?" Ollie gave a self-deprecating laugh. I told him I had someone I liked and ended it early. Wait, let me say it. I cut Molly off. I've been dependent on her all this time, playing ignorant while knowing our feelings for each other, scared to face her. If I kept being so pitiful, I'd get scolded by my kids again, and by Emily too. I had to be the one to talk.
Molly, I love you. Molly looked at me, cries on the brink of tears. Is that as a sister-in-law? I met Molly's gaze. Seeing the tears in her eyes, I understood I had made her wait because of my cowardice.
As a woman, I'm sorry for making you wait. It was pitiful.
They said they think we could make a great family. I feel the same. Please stay with us. Be our family.
I fall in love with you too. That's why the idea too. For a minute, but there was a part of me that felt guilty, as if I was stealing the happiness that should have been my sister's. Or as if I was taking something that should have been hers.
At that moment, I remembered Emily during her lifetime. It was when our family and Molly went camping together, watching Molly playing with the kids. Emily had said something. I've come to know the joy of being a part of a family. I hope someday a man will appear who will protect my little sister. And if my sister and the man she loves become part of our family, I think I would be happier than anything else. Now, I believe Emily must be watching over us with a smile. We chose the person because she was the one who wanted me, my children, and my precious sister to be happy first. When I told Molly about this, she laughed through her tears and nodded in agreement. Molly knows Emily's kindness just as well.
Shall we head home?
I held Molly's hand as we headed home to where the children were waiting, and altering to Ratnik. A few months later, Molly and I got married. Our dating period was short. We have been like family to me, so we didn't need a lengthy dating period. When we told the children we were marrying, they said, if you make Molly cry, we won't forgive you. Molly has always been like a sister to us, but now she's family. Even if you two fight, we'll always side with Molly. Hearing these words seemed to put Molly at ease. It seemed she had been anxious about whether they would accept her marrying me. I felt the same joy. I wanted to make Molly happy, and I was grateful to realize that my children felt the same way. Time passed, and then came our first wedding anniversary.
Thank you. Can we open them?
Of course. Open them all together.
First, Molly told us to do so with sparkling eyes, so my children and I opened the presents all at once. Mine looked like a letter. A travel voucher, perhaps. But when I opened it, there was an ultrasound photo inside.
But is this, I was in complete shock.
Then it seems Anna and Leah had opened their presents as well, and they let out a loud exclamation. these are baby clothes. Wait, a baby? In Anna and Leah's hands were a baby's outfit and a bib. Both the children and I were surprised and turned to look at Molly.
Molly smiled softly, touched her belly, and said, "Why, our family will soon be growing."
The children, who had been annoyingly clamoring for a younger sibling, were overjoyed. But even knowing the baby's gender, they were already thinking about names. Watching the two of them, I gently touched Molly's belly.
Thanks, Jeremy and Molly, thank you so much.
Molly then leaned into my ear and shared a fact.
Oh, the due date is August 10th.
In that moment, I thought of Emily. August 10th was our wedding anniversary with Emily.
I think our sister is watching over this child.
I nodded repeatedly to Molly's words. I still miss Emily, but I want to keep building happiness with my family. I believe this will make Emily smile too, who's up in the sky. What did you think? Subscribing to our channel will motivate us to create more content. See you in the next video. Was it always this impressive?
My ex-wife.
Yeah, I haven't been paying much attention to it lately, I replied.
When I said that, my ex-wife let out a sigh, saying, "Oh well," and then she gave me a bright smile. No choice then. I won't be able to sleep like this. Let's get it over with quickly.
I nodded at her words. After we finished, Lisa and I spent the night together for the first time in a long while. The next day, I met someone important together with Lisa. To me, that person was very precious. But before talking about that person, I'd like to tell you about Lisa and me. My name is Scott. I have a best friend from college named Adam. We were in the same faculty, and we spent a lot of time together during our college life. In our sophomore year, Adam introduced me to a girl he'd known since they were children. Her name is Lisa, a nursing student. Lisa and I hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of movies. I knew Adam saw Lisa as more than just a childhood friend. But I couldn't back down. I enjoyed being with Lisa too much. So, Lisa and I began dating. I was thrilled that Lisa had chosen me. Adam never said a word, but I knew he must be resentful. Adam started missing more college classes after Lisa. And I started dating, and it seemed like he was often feeling down. Lisa thought Adam was just a childhood friend and believed his absence from college was due to physical illness. I felt guilty that I had started dating Lisa despite knowing of Adam's love for her, but we continued our relationship, and I even managed to secure a job at a top-tier company. However, as Adam started coming to college less and less and seemed to be struggling with job hunting. Eventually, he dropped out of college and disappeared. Apparently, he hadn't told his parents either, and Lisa lost touch with Adam. I continued my relationship with Lisa, and we got married at the age of 25 with the blessings of everyone around me. But we divorced just 5 years later. The reason was that I was too absorbed in my work to take care of my family, as you often hear. A love that I had nurtured at the expense of losing my best friend, and yet I regretted not being able to maintain my married life for more than just 5 years. whether it was due to these regrets or not. I started losing my zest for life after the divorce. About 5 years after the divorce, I learned that the movie Lisa and I had watched on our first date was being released. I decided to go see it after work. That day was my last day at work. After the divorce, my motivation for work continued to wane, and I found myself more prone to depression and missing work. I was told by my employer that it might be hard for me to continue working like this. So, I decided it was time to quit. I don't have another job lined up. I quit my job full of worries about what I would do next, and if I would ever be able to work with passion again. I arrived at the theater a bit late. As I sat in the dark theater watching the movie, memories of Lisa flooded back as if they had happened just yesterday. But now, Lisa is no longer by my side. That thought made me incredibly sad. When the movie ended, the lights in the theater came up. As I was about to stand up, I noticed a woman sitting on the opposite side of my row. She was a petite woman dressed in a slim dress. Her seated posture was elegant. There was no mistaking it. It was Lisa, my ex-wife. When I let out a surprised "ah," she looked my way. After opening her eyes wide in surprise, she smiled at me and asked, "Did you also come to see this movie again? Are you free after this? How about we grab a bite?" Her voice was so cheerful that it didn't reflect the fact we had been divorced and hadn't seen each other for 5 years. I nodded my head in agreement, as if we were back in the casualness of our dating days. And that's how we decided to go out for a meal after the movie. We chose a pub where we used to go together. And since I hadn't been drinking alone, it was also my first visit to the pub in 5 years. Looking at her across the table, I noticed that Lisa was just as beautiful as she used to be. In contrast, I hadn't had a haircut in a long time, and my suit was all wrinkled. I was a bit embarrassed, but Lisa didn't mention anything about my appearance. Once again, I felt Lisa's unchanging kindness. It seems Lisa is still working as a nurse, just like she was when we were married. Left having a lively Lisa, who is still pursuing her nursing career, in front of me. I couldn't bring myself to say that I had lost my motivation and quit my job after our divorce. But our conversation was lively with topics about our hobby of movies and Lisa's current life, and we ended up missing the last train. We've talked too much because we were having fun. I have to find a place to stay. I found myself saying, "You want to stay over? The place is nearby." I waited for Lisa's response, my heart pounding a bit with the thought that she might decline. However, Lisa's response was not what I had imagined. "Oh, can I? Just maybe I should." I was so surprised that my voice got louder. Seeing this, Lisa laughed and said, "You were the one who asked me to stay over, weren't you? We used to live together, so there's no worry about now, right?" I felt a bit sad realizing that I was no longer a romantic interest to Lisa, but I was still glad that she was with me. However, I'd forgotten one thing. My room was extremely messy. As soon as we entered the living room, Lisa screamed. Was it always this bad? Yeah, I've been so down lately that I haven't even felt like doing chores. I knew I needed to clean up, but I just never got around to it. Lisa listened to me in silence, feeling like this was the only time to talk. I told her what I hadn't been able to say at the pub. I'm actually unemployed now. I just couldn't stay motivated at work, so I quit. That's hard to imagine coming from you, who used to be so workaholic that you didn't even care about me. Yeah, it was indeed true. But communication faded as I was too focused on work, and we slowly started drifting apart. And even after breaking up, I quit my job out of exhaustion. Then Lisa picked up a bunch of instant noodles that were on the kitchen table. Listen, you, who used to say that your body is your asset in work, are only eating instant noodles. No wonder you look so pale. I couldn't argue with that. My eating habits had gone downhill since our divorce. Lisa looked at me gently and silently.
For now, let's clean up. You won't be able to sleep well in this mess.
I felt bad about making her help with the cleaning. No, but it's fine. Come on, let's get started.
Oh, okay. Encouraged by Lisa, I started cleaning up with her.
After tidying up a bit, Lisa and I both lay down on the bed. I'll sleep on the floor.
No way! I can't vacuum in the middle of the night, and you won't get any rest if you do that. We both have the day off tomorrow, right? You need to get a good rest.
She had a point.
Just go to sleep. If you try anything, I'll kick you out of bed, okay? When you're tired, don't overthink things.
This with these words, Lisa put her palm on my eyes, feeling Lisa's gentle voice and the warmth of her hand. I closed my eyes, and so we spent the night together. The next morning, I woke up to find Lisa had prepared breakfast for me and even picked what I wear.
Then all of a sudden, she said, "There's someone I want you to meet." I managed to get an appointment for 11 o'clock, so we're heading to the meeting place now. Though,
Without really understanding what was happening, I followed Lisa and found myself sitting in a coffee shop. Lisa was now outside, seemingly looking for someone who was lost. Who was this person Lisa wanted me to meet? While thinking this, I was also pondering my own future in the back of my head. Employed in my mid-30s, I don't know if I can find a new job, and in the first place, I wonder if I can work properly in such a depressed state of mind. Just when my anxiety was about to overwhelm me, the door to the coffee shop opened. Seeing the man accompanying Lisa, I felt a moment of breathlessness. It was him. There was no mistaking it. It was Adam. Adam, my best friend, from whom I had heard since he dropped out of college. But something was different. Adam had gained a bit of weight. No, quite a bit.
Long time no see. Scott.
That sick energy in his voice made it clear how fulfilled his life was now. I had no idea Lisa and Adam had been in contact. He was now a physical therapist. Recently, he came to Lisa's hospital as a physical therapist and they reconnected.
With a big smile. Adam asked me how long's it been? How long's it been? And how have you been?
Back in college, I knew that Adam had feelings for Lisa. Despite that, I dated Lisa. I had undoubtedly hurt Adam deeply. And yet the Adam I met after such a long time was talking to me in such a friendly manner. I decided to ask him what was on my mind. Then, I did something awful, didn't I? Got you mad at me? At my words. Considering Lisa didn't seem surprised, she must have heard from Adam that despite knowing about his feelings, I dated Lisa anyway. What came back from Adam wasn't anger, but laughter. I can't believe you're still worried about that. But as serious as ever, just like back then. How many years ago do you think that was? The statute of limitations has expired. Wait, Lisa and I weren't dating. You just fell in love, so there's no need to feel guilty. After dropping out of college, Adam had been seeing a psychiatrist for a while and then went back to school. So that's how he became a physical therapist. Adam cheerfully told me about what happened after we lost touch. You know, the heartbreak was a real blow. I was young. Things weren't going well with job hunting, and my health started to suffer. So I quit college. But you know what? Something good came out of it. Yeah. Look, here's my wife and our lovely twins. He showed me a family photo on his phone. He had somehow managed to get married and even have twins. To the Syrian encounter with my wife actually happened at the psychiatrist's office I was visiting. She was working as a receptionist there. I quit college because I was feeling down and even had to go to the hospital, but thanks to that, I met my wife. It turned out to be a lucky break. My regret faded with Adam's bright smile. Adam and Lisa seemed relieved to see me like that. They must have been worried about me. I don't know the details, but you look really tired right now. But it's okay. People can take a break and then start again. Once you're feeling better, you can start looking for work or do what you want to do. Adam was trying to cheer me up. Lisa had arranged for me to meet my long-lost friend, concerned about me. I was deeply moved by the fact that the two people I had once hurt were trying to help me. Like from then on, I had to listen endlessly to Adam's bragging about their wife and twins. By the way, his wife is quite the cook, and the reason Adam has put on a bit of weight seems to be the result of a happy marriage. As I listened, I made up my mind that I would first of all make sure that my own life was in order so that I could repay them both. After that, I got employed at a small company. The salary is lower than my previous company, but there are no long hours or harsh quotas, making it a laid-back and comfortable place to work. My health is in top shape. I sometimes meet with Adam and Lisa. We're planning on going camping together with Adam's family next time. And I'm considering telling my feelings to Lisa. The encounter with Lisa at the movie theater didn't feel like just a coincidence. I couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny. I haven't forgotten my regret from the times when I neglected care of my family. But I do want another chance. I'd like to start as lovers again. Adam and I are currently planning the strategy for how I convey my feelings to Lisa. Keeping with Adam and Lisa again. I feel truly happy. That's whether my confession goes well or not. I intend to cherish these two people moving forward. I was meeting the soft curves of my boss, a woman named Nancy. I think I was hooked on the soft yet resilient feeling. That dry. I heard her voice sounding pleased in my ear. "You can continue." Her words made me dizzy, and I felt like I was about to pass out. Then, when I came to, a shocking sight was before me, but that's a story for later. My name is Mike Johnson, a 28-year-old company employee. As an ordinary white-collar worker, I have someone I love. It is my boss, a woman I admire, Nancy Stevens. At the workplace, she can be strict with me. But after all, this boss of mine, she's well endowed. I don't want you to misunderstand. It's not that I fell for Ms. Stevens because she has a large bust. There's a reason why I started to have feelings for Ms. Stevens, my admired boss. I made a pretty big mistake at work. If it had been my own mistake, it might have been fine, but it was something that would have caused trouble in other departments, so I was severely scolded by Ms. Stevens as well. Up until then, I'd never made a big mistake, so I was pretty down about it. I was worried about whether I would be able to survive at this company, and sometimes I couldn't even get a meal down my throat. During the company's break times, I didn't even feel like talking to the people around me, and I often found myself brooding alone. That's when Ms. Stevens spoke to me. I was feeling down, but Miss Stevens handed me a cup of coffee. And she said, "Everyone makes mistakes in their first or second year. That's why we have senior employees to cover for those mistakes, so it's okay if you mess up. Don't you see that the people around you don't mind? We've all made a mistake or two, so we understand it's the same for everyone. So don't be so down. I have expectations of you." These words from M.C.U. Stevens, who is always strict, were quite poignant. Above all, at a time when I was anxious that I might have been given up on after making a mistake, being told that she had expectations made me happy and made me think I have to try even harder. It's from this moment, knowing the kindness of Ms. Stevens, who I thought was strict, I started to become attracted to her little by little. And now, I'm earnestly harboring a one-sided love for Ms. Stevens. There was a time when I attended a year-end party at my workplace. My workplace has a lot of older employees, but there's no scary seniors or annoying ones who lecture you over drinks. I was enjoying drinking with a senior gentleman on that day. Unfortunately, the Ms. Stevens was sitting far away from where I was. But I still found myself stealing glances at her. Heck, unlike during work, the gesture of tucking her loose hair behind her ear was so sensual. Her cheeks were pink from the alcohol, which might have made her look even more so. Just watching M. Stevens with the gap from her usual sharp image during work got my heart racing. I've had feelings for her since my second year, but I can't confess my feelings. Miss Stevens is beautiful, has a good figure, and she's even good at work, so there's no way she would choose someone like me. When I think about it, it makes me feel empty, and I drink even more. While talking with the gentleman, I drank just to forget about my unrequited love. And then, having drunk a lot, I lost my memory. Moreover, unbelievably, I was rubbing her soft curves. I was hooked on the soft yet resilient feeling. And she happily said, "You can continue." At her words, I felt dizzy, as though my consciousness was fading. But then, I realized that this was a dream, because there's no way something this convenient could happen in reality. But if it's a dream, maybe it's okay to express my long-suppressed feelings. That's what I thought. So in the dream, I confessed to E.M. Stevens, M.M.'s Stevens, "I love you. I've always loved you. I've always loved you." Epsmim Stevens just smiled in the dream. I wondered if she wouldn't respond to my confession because it was a dream. Just then, I was jostled awake by someone calling out, "I mate," and then my consciousness cleared. Opening my eyes for some reason, I could still see Miasa Stevens' face, even though I thought I had woken up from the dream. Is this still a dream? Then maybe I can rub a bit more. He's thinking it was a dream. I decided to take the opportunity to rub the bulge in my hand again. At the sound of that scolding voice, I suddenly sat up. Doubtless it seemed I had been lying in a bed in an unfamiliar room, and there was a teddy bear's foot in my right hand. Apparently, what I thought was Mrs. Stevens in my dream was actually the foot of a teddy bear lying on the bed. But the surprises didn't end there. Because unbelievably, the real Miss Stevens was sitting at the edge of the bed I had been sleeping in. Retch Stevens, "Oh, what's going on here? Really, don't you remember anything? You seemed to have a lot of fun drinking, didn't you?" Seeing my panic, Stevens smiled. And then she explained the situation. Apparently, after getting smashed at the drinking party, M. Stevens had helped me into a taxi since we lived in the same direction. But during the taxi ride, I completely passed out. So, with the help of the taxi driver, the M. Stevens had apparently had to carry me all the way to her apartment. And even though I was supposed to sleep on the couch in my drowsy state, I ended up in Emma Stevens' bed. The Emma Stevens had apparently given up her bed and slept on the sofa instead. Hearing this, I got off the bed and apologized. I couldn't believe not only had I been brought back to a single woman's apartment, but I'd also taken over her bed. But rather than getting angry, the MS Milk Stevens just said, "Remember to drink moderately." She really is a kind-hearted woman, just like a goddess. But then, the Pmexatines, as Stevens asked with an awkward expression and a small voice, "Do you like me?" I was taken aback and asked, "Why do you ask?" Though my voice might have, "Because a little while ago you said in your sleep, Ms. Stevens, I love you. Was that about me?" I was completely flustered. I think I was more flustered than when I made mistakes at work. But I quickly made up my mind. After all, I've had a crush on her for years. If I dodged the question now, I'd surely regret it later. If I didn't want to regret it, there was no other option but to confess my feelings. Taking a deep breath, I looked straight at Ms. Stevens. What I said is true. I wasn't just talking in my sleep. I've always loved you. Will you consider dating me? Hearing my confession, made Ms. Stevens blinked in surprise. She must not have expected this turn of events. It must be a surprise to hear a confession from a subordinate. Then Miss Stevens slowly lowered her head. I'm sorry. I was shocked, but more than that, I thought I knew it. Until now, she had never shown any signs of this. Still, I wanted to hear a convincing reason from Emma Stevens, so I asked, could I hear your reasons? Just as Mim Stevens was about to answer, the bedroom door opened. The person who poked their head out was a girl about the age of a kindergartner with long hair. Knoit, I'm Nancy, I'll be there soon. Oh, wait for me in the living room. Upon hearing M. Stevens' words, little Maya headed toward the living room. She is actually the daughter of my brother and his wife, who passed away 3 years ago. Her name is Maya and she's 5 years old. But both of her grandparents on her mother's side had already passed away, and my parents are too old to take care of a child, so I decided to take her in. But since I'm working, I sometimes ask my mom or a sitter for help. I was stunned by this truth, and the fact that she turned me down didn't even matter anymore. The teddy bear I was holding just a while ago must have belonged to Maya. I didn't know. I've only told my boss and some close colleagues at work. I thought about telling you, but I didn't want to cause any trouble. Everyone's so kind. I thought they might feel obligated. But my boss knows and has been subtly adjusting my workload. Thanks to that, I don't have to work overtime much, and I can take sudden days off when needed. I was completely unaware of this. Because in my company, we are encouraged to take paid leave, so no one is really surprised when someone takes a sudden day off. If she had told me, well, there probably wasn't much I could have done anyway. So Stevens has been managing both her work and childcare all by herself.
There are hard times, of course, but Maya is such a sweetheart. She was only 2 when her parents passed away, so she doesn't remember them much. She calls me Nancy and often helps me out. Saying that, Miss Stevens, who was smiling, looked genuinely happy. She must have had a lot of hardships, but she probably thinks of Maya as her own daughter. I promised Miss Stevens to keep this a secret from everyone at the office.
Then, as an apology for troubling her, I offered to make breakfast.
Breakfast? Can you cook?
Well, I kind of enjoy cooking, and I often cook at home. Maya said she was hungry earlier. If you don't mind, could I use your kitchen? At my words, Miss Stevens seemed relieved.
To be honest, that would be great. I try my best with housework, but I'm not good at cooking, and I never seem to get better. If you could help me out, it would be a big help.
Leave it to me. I enthusiastically made pancakes and soup. Your pancakes are so fluffy. Mine are usually flat. Amazing!
Maya, don't say they are flat.
I couldn't help but laugh at the conversation between Maya and Miss Stevens. Maya was a talkative little girl who told me a lot of things, like how Miss Stevens' omelets are always a mess, or how her curry always ends up burnt. Seeing Miss Stevens looking slightly embarrassed was a refreshing sight, different from how she is at work. I'd always thought she was perfect, but she was not good at cooking. The thought of me being the only one who knew that made me feel happy. The pleasant time passed, and it was time for me to leave. Just before I left, when Maya wasn't around, I secretly asked Miss Stevens the reason why she turned me down. She spoke looking down.
Wait now. I'm fully committed to raising Maya, so I can't even think about love.
No, it's okay. I'm glad I got to hear your reason. I was relieved to find that the reason wasn't that she had a boyfriend or that she didn't see me as a potential romantic partner. I understood her decision, but knowing her kindness and love for her daughter only made my feelings for her, Miss Stevens, grow stronger. It seemed unlikely that I'd be able to let go anytime soon. Exceptions killing. I started cooking for Miss Stevens at her house on a regular basis. Because little Maya was crying, wanting to see Mike again. Miss Stevens shared this with a troubled expression, and I suggested that I'd be happy to visit if she was comfortable with it. She may think that I've completely given up on her, but I haven't at all. Spending time with Maya is enjoyable, but getting to spend time with M. Stevens as well is pure bliss. After a while of my visits to M. Stevens's house, her business trip was scheduled. The question that emerged was who would take care of Maya. I did, apparently. The babysitter couldn't stay overnight, and Miss Stevens' mother was hospitalized for a short term due to a fracture. It was tough for just Mr. Les, Stevens' father, to take care of her, so I became the chosen one. I was asked to take care of Maya during her business trip, and I immediately agreed. So while M. Stevens was away, I spent time with Maya. Mia was able to take care of her own basic needs, so all I had to do was cook. Folding clothes, washing dishes, brushing teeth. Mrs. Dotlia told me that Emma Stevens had taught her all these things. Knowing that M.S. Stevens was raising her with so much love every day warmed my heart.
Mike, tomorrow is Nancy's birthday. Maya announced.
Hilly, is that so,
Yeah, stay with me, okay?
The M. Stevens would be back from her business trip tomorrow. Mia's offer was delightful, but I thought I should prepare for the celebration and then leave once Mrs. Emma Stevens returns. After all, it's an important day. The MC, Stevens surely wants to celebrate as a family. When I told her that
Nancy told me she likes you. Might.
hey, is that for real?
Yeah. Arturia, when I asked Nancy before if she liked you, she said yes, but it's a secret. Oh no. I just spilled Nancy's secret.
saying that, Maya playfully stuck out her tongue. Well, I was taken aback by Maya's cheekiness. I was honestly delighted. I knew our relationship had become closer since my confession, but I had no idea that M.S. Stevens shared the same feelings.
Mia, do you think I can date Emma Stevens?
Of course.
At that, Maya looked quite pleased with herself. To my surprise, Mia told me she knew about Cupid from her favorite picture book, where the love-struck Cupid appears. So, I made up my mind to plan a birthday surprise and to tell her my feelings. Together, Timia and I cooked up a feast and decorated the room. Virtually, when Ms. Stevens returned home, we set off pretty poppers. And then, I made my second love confession in my life.
I just can't give up on you.
At my confession, the provisions, Stevens's cheeks turned a soft pink. It was a distinctly different reaction from my first one. But soon, the Pemisnex Evans expression quickly clouded.
I'm sorry. I just can't. Not right now.
Clearly, she was still concerned about Maya. As I was about to respond, I cut in. I want to be Cupid. At her words, the MS Stevens was taken aback, her mouth dropping open in surprise. Seeing this, I couldn't help but smile. Because I love Mike's cooking, it's even better than Nancy's. At this, I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. The MC, Stevens, was smiling again too.
I'll cook delicious food to make both you, Ms. Stevens and me happy.
Will you make me happy too?
At Miss Stevens' soft whisper, I nodded broadly.
Absolutely.
Years have passed since my second confession. I've been given more responsibility at work, and I'm enjoying every day. But the sternly beautiful boss, Miss Stevens, wasn't there anymore, because she was on maternity leave. The MS Stevens, who became my wife a year ago, or should I say, Nancy, gave birth to a baby boy 2 months ago. Today, too, my 2 adorable children must be waiting for me at home.
Nancy turned around and mouthed, "Welcome home."
In the living room, Maya was reading a picture book to the baby, so absorbed in the story that she did not notice me sneaking home. Timia, now 7 years old, adores her baby brother and reads to him every day. It's her favorite picture book with Cupid in it. Her brother and sister getting along so well as she reads to him. Triniadzi, looking at them with a gentle smile. I took in the scene in my living room and savored the happiness. Years ago, I woke up one drunken morning, confessed my feelings and was rejected once, but I'm so glad I didn't give up. I'm grateful every day for Maya, my little Cupid. So, how is it? Subscribing to my channel will motivate me to produce more. See you in the next video.